Hi, everybody, and you can tell by this Gen Talk that I'm filming outside today. How could you not film outside on such a beautiful day? So, I'm continuing on from my series of Gen Talks on mind apples. And for anyone that hasn't watched the first couple, just to remind you that a mind apple is a daily delight or treat for your mind that gives the brain and the mind an opportunity to pause and rest. And I have been a huge fan of using mental fitness exercises to build a fitness in your mind, to calm the mind, to reduce the effects of stress and anxiety. And over the next few weeks, I'm going to be sharing little nuggets of wisdom that are related to mental fitness and mind apples. And just to give you a little preview, if you're interested in tuning in over the next few weeks, today I'm going to be talking about measuring mind apples, and I'm going to come to the beautiful quote that I think James Clear is probably the original person for this quote, but it's definitely in his book that I came across it. And what he says is, what we measure improves. And so I'm going to be talking about that concept today. And over the next few weeks, I'm also going to be talking about the four cornerstones of well-being when it comes to mind apples and mental fitness. I am also going to be talking about the power of words, the words that we choose to put on statements, particularly that big, the G word, which is guilt, the F word, which is fun. You know, the words that we choose to describe activities in our life and how that affects us. And when we change the language, how that can make a difference. And of course, I'm going to be giving gorgeous examples of mind apples all along the way. So the first tip I'm going to give you today is the idea of measuring your mind apples. So people say to me all the time that when they're training with me or when they're working with me, they have a certain amount of consistency, but then when that accountability goes away, the consistency falls away. And guess what? That's human nature. It's in my life too. What I found over the years works for me is the idea of recording, and we've lots of different ways we'll get into that, recording the activities. So if you think about it, there's a reason why gadgets like step counters, Fitbits, health and fitness devices that record different activities that we do are, so successful, or so popular, maybe is a better word to describe them. And so it's the same principle for us. Whatever it is that we want to do consistently, a really good idea is to record it. So think of children when we want to make sure that they make their bed or they tie their shoes or they put the dishes away. How do we get them to do it on a daily basis? The star chart. So it's exactly like that for our own mind. So whether we want to use the technology we already have, like our phones, if calendars involved, you can stamp on your calendar, you can color code your calendar. Any single, you can even rate your calendar. So like you might give yourself a score, 1 out of 10, how you're doing with your mind apples on a daily basis, and you can look back over the month, the you did something for days that was empty, you forgot that day, and that's okay. The consistency is only to be consistent or intending to be consistent. So, and if you've done more than one apple, and if you've had a couple of ones in there, you might have different pictures or images or stars or shapes or colors for different mind apples. That's completely up to you. The most important thing is that you do something that's easy. I could say to you, well, now you need to download this app, and in it you need to enter this logo and this icon, and of course that's wonderful if that's what you're into and if you have time on your hands. But most of us are struggling to just kind of keep our head above water at the best of times. So adding in extra work just makes even more difficult to be consistent with your mind apples. So make it nice and simple. I have a handout that I've made, I use with my groups, and I'm more than happy to email that out to anybody. There's some other gorgeous material in it as well, not just the mind apple stuff. I'm more than happy to email that out to people who would like a copy. Just do what you do, put it in the comments. If this is on a different social media platform, you can private message me or direct message me, and the lingo, DM, PM, whatever it is you want to do. I'm happy to share that for the greater good of you being consistent with your mind apples. And the most important thing about recording is that you measure the success. So when you take a look over the last month, maybe you've noticed a week or two where you're particularly consistency, check in against your energy. What difference did it make to your life? Because when we know something works, when we can see the benefits of something that works, we're much more likely to continue, much more likely to continue. And here's the other thing about all, plans, is to be compassionate with yourself. Of course, there's going to be days you're going to forget. There's going to be times when you're doing it amazingly for weeks and then you fall off the radar. That happens to us all. All you do is just ask yourself when are you ready to get back on the horse? So if it's an activity that you were doing for a while, maybe yoga class or a gym class, or you were out walking every evening and all of a sudden that just came to a standstill, that's okay. Just say, well, maybe try something different rather than maybe trying to go back to the exact same thing. Because sometimes in our mind what happens is we build up a resistance. The ego mind always wants us to resist what makes us feel better, because when we feel better we make better choices and the ego doesn't have so much control over us. So if we've been doing something that works really well for a while, I'll give you an example from me. Qigong, I love it. I've been flying at it for a couple of years now, and very recently in the last month or two I've completely fallen over the radar, and I've noticed myself going, Jenny, do you really need to get back to your Qigong? And look at you, you've got sore legs and sore knees, and why aren't you doing your Qigong? And then it was only this morning I said to myself, do you know what, I'm not going to pressure myself to go back to Qigong, because that's only making me resist it more. I'm going to decide to do something completely different, and when Qigong calls me, I'm going to pick it back up again. And I guarantee, as soon as I make that decision, the Qigong will call me. It's like, oh, now I'm not pushing myself to do it anymore. It feels so much more appealing. I can already feel that sensation, if you get me. So the key is, what we push against pushes back against us. It's called the push-back technique. So try, if you can, to look at that and be aware of that, to monitor that in your own life. Be aware of what are you pushing yourself into that's pushing back, because that's just your resistance. Just switch it up a little bit. I mean, I certainly don't do the exact same mind apples every day. I definitely, for sure, do breath most of the time, because that's just the one that works for me. But I also do other ones. Today I literally sat and I calmed my mind for 5 minutes before I picked up my phone, and I didn't allow any other mental stimulation into my mind, only my thoughts. And I concentrated on what my intention was for the day. And I decided this morning that my intention was to be calm, kind, and just happens to be a third C. I love alliteration. Courageous. I wanted to be brave. So I wanted to be calm, because I was feeling a little bit anxious. And I wanted to be kind, which was really kind to myself, and courageous. I wanted to be brave to make the decisions that I needed to make, and to say the things I needed to say, and to do the things I needed to do. And I guarantee that morning that I had went so much smoother than me jumping up, looking at the phone, opening up like podcasts and all sorts of stuff that I'm always filling my mind with. And because your mind needs that break, you don't need to be constantly filling the mind up with information, even if it's good information, even if it's positivity, even if it's learning, even if it's knowledge. It needs a break. So I did. I just sat with myself this morning for 5 minutes before I got up and started my day. And actually, funny enough, now that I think about it, when I came out to the back garden with my cup of tea, I started writing down loads of really creative stuff that I've been thinking about for a while. And I was thinking, wow, that's amazing. All this creativity is flowing out of me. So more than likely that was to do with the 5 minutes pause I had when I first woke up. And there is power in that. So my mind apple for me today was the pause button. So it doesn't have to be doing either. It can be pausing. And then it was also setting an intention. So here's the point I'm going to leave you on now, is what we measure improves. So find a way to measure your consistency with your activities, whether it's self-care activities, whether it's mind apples, mental fitness, whether it's just, if it's physical exercise, mental exercise, emotional exercise. Find a way to measure it, because what we measure improves. And you think about it, if you wanted to run a marathon, you'd have to measure your progress, wouldn't you? You'd have to measure, like today I can run 5 miles. another week I can run 7, another week I can run 10. You know, you don't just wake up one morning and run 26 miles. So it's the same for us with our fitness levels of any kind. And in Mind Apples are really about your mental fitness and improving your ability to be aware of your thoughts so that you can control them and they're not controlling you. So, on that note, I'm going to let you go. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you back here next week for a little nugget of mind apples and wisdom. And I will be talking about activity and how moving energy in the body helps us to move emotions that have been stuck. And I'll be talking to you about a few little tools for that as well. So, have a wonderful weekend, no matter where you are in the world. And I shall see you all back here soon. And thank you so much for joining me again. Take care. Bye.